A public hearing for Home ARP Allocation Plan and Amendment to Project Year 2021 Annual Action Plan. It is Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. It is 3:30 p.m. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my right is Vice Chair Ty Menser. The purpose of this public hearing is to accept and consider public comment on the Home ARP Allocation Plan, an amendment to Program Year 2021 HUD Annual Action Plan. This is a combination virtual and in-person public hearing. Those wishing to testify have joined by Zoom, in person, emailed and comment, or mailed in comment. If you wish to testify, please visit the Thurston County homepage online and select announcements of public hearings on the left-hand side. The information to join this public hearing remotely has been posted there. If you do not wish to testify but would like to listen and follow along, please watch the live stream through the Thurston County YouTube channel to help us manage attendance. Tom Webster will provide information on this topic. I'll call the names from the sign-in sheet for in-person testimony. After those in the boardroom wishing to testify are finished, the county manager will assist by calling the names of those on Zoom. You will have 4 minutes to testify. Time may not be given to another person. When you're called on, please state your name and address for the record. The clerk of the board will review the timer. The public hearing is now open. Tom Webster will now present background information of the report, written comments submitted, and any additional information requested by the board. Tom?
Great. Thank you, Commissioners. Tom Webster with Public Health and Social Services. So just wanted to give a brief presentation today to review the development of this home ARP plan. It's a little different than, it's a new source of funds that we haven't received before. It is a one-time allocation of just over $3 million that the county's received under the American Rescue Plan Act. And it was awarded based on jurisdictions that qualify for the Home Investment Partnership Program, which the county does qualify for. And these funds are intended to provide housing, services, and shelter to individuals experiencing homelessness and other vulnerable populations. So the eligible activities for these funds are, there's four main activities that we can use these funds for. One is the production or preservation of affordable housing. One is for tenant-based rental assistance. It can also be used for supportive services, homeless prevention services, and housing counseling. And then fourth is for the purchase and development of non-congregate shelter. And then finally, some can be used for administration and planning. Within that,
Stop you right there.
yeah.
Can you define non-congregate shelter?
So a congregate shelter is a large room, people sleeping in one open space. So non-congregate shelter would be like a hotel where people have individual rooms within that shelter.
Or like a family?
Or a family, right? And then there's some qualifying populations for these funds. They include persons experiencing homelessness, people at risk of homelessness, and there's a specific HUD definition for who's at risk of homelessness. And it's pretty limited in terms of you need to have a 14-day pay or vacate notice, you need to have or perhaps a history of homelessness in the past. So there's a specific definition that at risk qualifies for. Those fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence. Other populations requiring services or housing assistance prevent homelessness, which is a catch-all. HUD allowed us a little bit of flexibility. And then veterans that meet any of the above criteria. So these funds need to really be used to support all of those populations. So in developing our plan, HUD required that we go through a consultation process, that we reach out to our community to describe what are the needs in our community and identify the gaps. So we have done that. We've had multiple meetings through the Housing Action Team. We've met with the Housing Authority of Thurston County, TRPC, the Veterans Administration, and various other stakeholders. We also included questions as part of a public survey that was sent out to the public. We then developed this plan. HUD requires that we have a public hearing and a comment period, so this plan has been on our website for the past 30 days for public comment. We've received one comment prior to the meeting today, which I'll describe briefly. And then after that, we submit our plan to HUD. That plan is due to HUD by March 31st of this month. Some of the key findings from that consultation process were with an expected loss of homeless service funding due to reduced document recording fees, there's a need to fill funding gaps for services. There's a severe lack of affordable housing in our community, and these dollars should be used to develop more affordable housing. A need for more shelter and housing options for those fleeing domestic violence was identified. Low-income seniors were particularly identified as being priced out of housing and needing more affordable housing options. With the ending of COVID-related rental assistance, there's an interest in a need for an additional rental assistance. It was noted that home ARP funds should not be used to create or support projects that cannot be sustained. So this was particularly important when we were thinking of the idea of whether we would stand up a new non-congregate shelter. We might be able to fund it initially, but could we sustain that funding over time? And then finally, a need for more affordable housing with accessibility features for vets with mobility challenges. So those were some of the key findings from our consultation process. So based on that and our discussions, we have made a determination. We're proposing to use approximately half, 47.5% of the funds for supportive services to help fill in the gaps over 3 years. So this would provide approximately $500,000 of additional funding over the next 3 years for services. And then 47.5% or just under 1.5 million to develop affordable rental housing. So the creation of additional housing units, and then 5% for administration. Within this plan, HUD asked that we identify any preferences for within those populations. We've identified that we are not making any preferences for what are the eligible populations we will serve. Once we receive these funds from HUD, we'll issue a request for proposals, and based on the proposals we receive, we may identify priorities or preferences based on actual applications received, but this time we're not predetermining any preferences for the use of these funds. And then it's our intent to have a range of activities that ensure all eligible populations will have access to at least one funded activity within this. So with that, next steps are we submit this plan to HUD as part of our 2021 HUD Annual Action Plan. And then HUD has a period to review it, make comment, and if they have questions or if we need to clarify or correct anything in our plan, we have an opportunity to do that. Our expectation would be that we would get approval from HUD probably sometime this summer on the use of those funds. We would then issue a request for proposals, working through the Regional Housing Council to review those applications, determine what's eligible, and then bring those forward to you with the recommendations for funding. We do have until 2030 to spend these funds, although the plan needs to be submitted by March 31st, as I said. Our intent would be to spend these funds within the next 3 years. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
Nope, I think you covered it.
No questions for
All right.
me.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to the public hearing. There is no one signed up, and I don't see anyone in the boardroom unless David wants to provide public testimony. No? Okay. And,
I'll move to.
Nobody in Zoom, Madam Chair.
okay, so you'll,
I'll
oh,
move to
second.
close the public hearing.
There's been a motion to close the public hearing, and I seconded. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Everts is excused. Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Next is a motion to move this forward. Are we ready?
I move to approve the home ARP allocation plan and authorize the Public Health and Social Services Department to submit the plan to HUD by amending the PY 2021 HUD Annual Action Plan.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Everts is excused. Commissioner Menzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Mejia?
Aye. Okay, so with that, that will conclude our public hearing. Thank you. We are adjourned.